I can see him. Step out of the vehicle.
I'm already out, sir. My hands are up. Tell me what this is about.
Hands out now. Do not move.
They're out, sir. I'm complying. This is my ID. I'm
Step
active
back
duty.
against the car.
I haven't done anything.
Back on the car.
Hey!
Whoa, you're pushing me.
I'm not fighting. I'm not a threat.
You
Let
keep
me
those
talk.
hands up.
They're up.
This is wrong.
Officer Garrett Hines had been on the San Diego Police Department for 9 months, a period just long enough for his academy-born confidence to harden into a dangerous arrogance. He saw himself as a warrior on the front lines of a chaotic city, a hammer for whom every citizen was a potential nail. It was this mindset, a toxic brew of inexperience, insecurity, and unexamined bias that led him to a fateful decision on a dark highway shoulder. A decision that would not only detonate his career, but would also cost the taxpayers a staggering $8 million. The object of his suspicion was a man in a US Army uniform, standing calmly by his car with his hands in the air. Nothing about the man's demeanor was threatening. He was compliant, articulate, and respectful, even as the officer's aggression mounted. But Hines didn't see a soldier. He saw a challenge to his authority. The man he was about to assault, tase, and wrongfully arrest was First Lieutenant Daniel Brooks, a decorated combat veteran who had served his country for 12 years. The entire disastrous encounter, a masterclass in how not to police, would be captured from start to finish on Hines's own body camera. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps us bring more truth to light. First Lieutenant Daniel Brooks was the embodiment of discipline and service. At 34 years old, he had built a life on the bedrock principles of the US Army: loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. He was a logistics officer, a man whose job was to bring order to the chaos of military operations, ensuring that soldiers on the front lines had everything they needed to survive and succeed. He had served 2 tours in Afghanistan, earning a Bronze Star for his leadership during a complex supply mission that came under enemy fire. He was known among his peers and superiors for his unshakable calm, a man who thought clearly when others panicked. On that Thursday night, he was driving home from the Fort Irwin National Training Center, a grueling 3-hour drive back to his family in San Diego. He was still in his Army combat uniform, a common practice for service members making a direct commute from their duty station. He was tired, looking forward to seeing his wife and 2 young children, from whom he'd been away for a week-long training exercise. He was driving his family's SUV, a reliable vehicle with car seats in the back. As he merged onto the interstate, he briefly swerved over the line as he adjusted his radio. A minor, momentary lapse from a weary driver. He corrected himself instantly, but it was enough. In his rearview mirror, he saw the sudden jarring flash of police lights. He pulled over to the shoulder immediately, put his car in park, and waited, assuming it was a routine stop for a minor traffic infraction. He had no idea he was about to face a more hostile confrontation on a California highway than he ever had in a combat zone. Officer Garrett Hines was a rookie who desperately wanted to be seen as a veteran. He had scraped through the police academy, his physical scores high, but his marks in situational judgment and de-escalation worryingly low. His field training officer had written a prescient but ultimately ignored note in his final evaluation. Officer Hines displays a concerning tendency to escalate verbal encounters. He often perceives calm, direct questioning from citizens as a sign of defiance rather than a request for information. Recommend additional training in communication before clearing for solo patrol. But the department was short-handed, and the recommendation was filed away. Hines got his badge and his solo patrol car. He craved a good bust, something that would make a story back at the station. He saw traffic stops not as a tool for public safety, but as a fishing expedition, a chance to find something bigger. When he saw Lieutenant Brooks's SUV swerve, it was the only pretext he needed. He initiated the stop, his heart pounding with the thrill of potential conflict. His mind, clouded by implicit bias, had already started constructing a narrative. He saw a black man in a military uniform late at night, and his brain didn't process it as a soldier heading home. It processed it as an anomaly, something that didn't fit. The uniform, a symbol of honor and service, became, in his suspicious mind, a possible disguise. The body camera footage shows Hines approaching the vehicle with an aggressive tactical posture. "Hands where I can see them. Step out of the vehicle," he barks, before even reaching the driver's window. Lieutenant Brooks, a man trained to react to commands with precision and calm, complies instantly. He opens his door and steps out, raising his hands in a clear, non-threatening gesture. "I'm already out, sir. My hands are up. Tell me what this is about," he says, his voice steady and respectful. Hines ignores the question, his focus locked on asserting dominance.
Hands out now! Do not move!
He commands, shining his flashlight directly into the lieutenant's eyes. "They're out, sir. I'm complying," Brooks replies. "This is my ID. I'm active duty." He is holding his wallet and military ID card, which he had retrieved in anticipation of a standard traffic stop. This was the moment that should have ended the entire encounter. A reasonable officer would have seen the uniform, the military ID, and the lieutenant's compliant demeanor and immediately de-escalated. But Garrett Hines was not a reasonable officer. He saw a black man who wasn't afraid of him, a man who spoke with calm authority, and it infuriated him. "Step back against the car," Hines yells. "I haven't done anything," Brooks says, not moving, not out of defiance, but out of sheer confusion. "Back on the car." Hines screams, and then shoves the decorated army officer hard against the side of his own vehicle. "Whoa, you're pushing me!" Brooks exclaims, stumbling from the force of the shove. The shock and disbelief are evident in his voice.
I'm not fighting!
"I'm not a threat. This is wrong." He is a man who has faced down armed insurgents, now being assaulted by a rookie cop during a traffic stop. Should a military uniform grant a citizen any special consideration during a police encounter, or should all citizens be treated exactly the same? Let us know your thoughts. The situation deteriorated with terrifying speed. As Lieutenant Brooks tried to regain his balance, still protesting his innocence, Officer Hines drew his taser.
Get on the ground!
He screamed. Before Brooks could even process the command, Hines fired. The electrified prong struck the lieutenant in the chest, and 50,000 volts of electricity surged through his body. He collapsed onto the asphalt, his muscles seizing in agony. As the decorated soldier lay convulsing on the ground, a second patrol car screeched to a halt. Sergeant Linda Chen, a 22-year veteran and the shift supervisor, leaped out of her car. She had been monitoring the stop on the radio, and Hines's increasingly unhinged transmissions had sent alarm bells ringing. She took in the scene in a single horrified glance. The uniformed soldier on the ground, the deployed taser wires, and her rookie officer standing over him like a hunter over his prey. Hines. "What the hell did you do?" she screamed, running towards them. "Sarge, he was resisting. Non-compliant. I had to tase him," Hines stammered, the adrenaline making his voice shake. "He's a US Army lieutenant, you moron," Chen yelled, pointing at the military ID lying on the pavement where Brooks had dropped it. "Did you even look at his ID? Did you even ask him his name?" She knelt beside Brooks, who was groaning, the agonizing effects of the taser slowly subsiding. "Lieutenant, are you okay? I am so sorry. This should never have happened." The full weight of his catastrophic error seemed to hit Garrett Hines all at once. His face went pale. He had just used force on an active duty military officer who had been fully compliant. He had assaulted a man who had sworn an oath to protect the very freedoms Hines was trampling. "You are relieved of duty. Effective immediately," Sergeant Chen said, her voice a low, furious hiss. "Give me your weapon, go sit in your car, and do not say another word. You have just destroyed your life." The aftermath was a legal and public relations tsunami. Lieutenant Brooks was taken to the hospital, where he was treated for burns from the taser probes and a sprained wrist from the fall. The US Army was officially notified, and the incident immediately escalated to the highest levels of both the military and civilian chains of command. The body camera footage was seized as evidence. It was an unmitigated disaster, and it was all on tape. The story broke the next morning and became a national outrage. The footage of the decorated soldier being needlessly tased went viral. "Rookie cop tases compliant army officer" was the headline on every news channel. The Pentagon issued a rare and forceful statement, condemning the unacceptable and unprofessional treatment of a uniformed service member. Lieutenant Brooks, a man who valued his privacy, was reluctantly thrust into the spotlight. He hired a high-powered civil rights law firm and filed an $8 million federal lawsuit against Officer Garrett Hines in the city of San Diego. The lawsuit was a scathing indictment, alleging excessive force, unlawful detention, racial profiling, and the city's deliberate indifference in failing to properly train and supervise an officer with a documented history of aggression. The city's legal department knew they were facing an indefensible case. The video evidence was damning. The victim was a military hero with a spotless record. A jury would be horrified. They moved to settle. After intense negotiations, during which Lieutenant Brooks's attorneys refused to back down, the city agreed to pay the full $8 million. Garrett Hines was fired from the San Diego Police Department. His career, which had lasted a mere 9 months, was over. An internal investigation confirmed every detail from his training officer's report. He was placed on the National Decertification Index, a permanent black mark, ensuring he would never wear a badge again. Lieutenant Daniel Brooks recovered from his injuries and returned to active duty. He and his family used a portion of the settlement to found a non-profit organization that provides free legal assistance to military service members and veterans who have been victims of civil rights violations. In a press conference, his quiet dignity stood in stark contrast to the violence he had endured. "I have served my country for over a decade," he said. "I have faced danger and I have upheld my oath. To be treated as a threat, as a criminal, in the country I have sworn to defend, by a person who swore a similar oath, is a deep and painful wound." This was never about the money. It was about ensuring that no one, soldier or civilian, is ever treated this way again. Officer Garrett Hines was not a monster. He was a product of a system that failed him, and in doing so, failed the public. It failed to heed the warnings in his file. It failed to teach him that authority without wisdom is just tyranny. He was so desperate to find a villain that he couldn't see the hero standing right in front of him. And in the end, the only crime committed on that dark highway shoulder was the one he perpetrated himself. The $8 million settlement was the steep price of that crime, a costly invoice for a lesson in justice, humility, and the true meaning of service.